Hey, so how's it going out there? So, this is my first time ever going live. I'm a little nervous here. I don't know why. But anyway, I just wanted to go live, and I actually just wanted to try this out and see what it's like. But let's just start it off and just say on my I just want to give a story, because I know everyone like, hey, how's it going, Patty? So I just want to give my story on what happened and how I got involved in weight loss and all this other stuff. So anyway, so what's my backstory? Hey, honey, how you doing? So what's my backstory? My backstory is, I was in the Navy, and I had this idea, I'd always been working out, and I'd always wanted to look good and care about my body and my figure and all this stuff, but I wasn't very good at it. I just wasn't. I didn't know much about it, and I seen all these people that had these big muscles and, like, I guess no body fat. They were really cut up, and I had no idea how they actually were able to do that. And so that's when, I guess I had to figure it out, right? I had to figure out how they went about doing that and everything else, and I had a lot of ideas about it. I thought you had to lift weights, like low rep, high repetition, and that's how you get cut up, and I had a lot of things I didn't understand, and I knew nothing about nutrition. I mean, you talk about, I'd never even looked, I didn't know what a calorie was. I didn't even know what fats, any of this stuff were when it came to nutrition. I didn't even know that was part of the equation when I got into this stuff. And so I remember I was working out, and I just wasn't effective. I was tired of wasting my time. And I was like, well, you know what? If I can just figure out a way to make my time more effective, because I'm already trying to look good, and how can I do that? And so that's when I started reading, and I started reading all these books and Googling it, and then I finally found a book that was talking exactly what I needed. I bought it, and I read the whole thing cover to cover, and I realized that my big realization was I needed to understand nutrition. That was key. It wasn't just working out. I actually had to understand, because the way these guys look good is they didn't have body fat. That was why their muscles were cut up, and that's why they look so good, was because they didn't have body fat. And I was like, holy mackerel. So let me figure out how to do this. Let me go and follow these directions. And so I started figuring it out. Okay, well, what do I got to do? I got to, holy mackerel, I got to count calories? What the heck is this? And I got to download this app to figure out how to count calories, and I got to log all my food, and I've got to do all these things, and it ended up being really complicated. Like, I was overwhelmed a little bit. Like, this is too much. Like, so you're telling me, I tried it. I tried counting the calories, and I ended up spending more time in the day counting calories. And I spent more time counting calories than it took me to plan the meal, cook the meal, and eat the meal, is how I was spending trying to figure out what I should eat. And so anyway, it was a lot of work, but I stuck through it, right? I was like, I'm committed to this. Let me just stick through this. And so it was crazy, because what ended up happening was they told me I needed to bulk up, right? They had this idea in the bodybuilding world that you got to bulk up. Like, that's how you're going to build muscle. So I was like, interesting. Because if I try to cut down right now and be all skinny, and I'm not going to have any muscle, right? And who wants to look like skinny and skin and bone? I mean, yeah, we want to lose weight, we want to look good, but you don't want to look like you're skin and bone either. That doesn't make any sense. So, okay, I got to bulk up, build muscle. So I did that. I started eating a lot of food, and eating, and I went from 160 pounds up to 195 pounds. I gained 35 pounds in a matter of like a couple months. And I was like, man, I'm doing good. I'm getting big. The problem was, when I looked in the mirror, I was fat. Like, I was like, wait a minute, I don't know, I don't like the way I look. I started getting health issues. Like, I had really bad heartburn. Like, it was so bad that after every meal, my chest would just burn really bad, and I thought about going to the hospital. I thought about going to the doctor and trying to get medicine for this or something. I started taking Tums. I had to eat Tums after every meal, and it was really bad. Like, I was starting to get unhealthy just from this extra weight that I'd been putting on, and my knees started hurting because I used to run a lot, and then I started getting joint pain from all the extra weight that was on my knees, and I started getting comments from people. People actually, I was in the gym one day, and I'm in the Navy, right? And so I was at the gym, and one of the guys came up to me and tapped me on the stomach, and he said, "Oh, look at that. You got a nice little beer belly." I was like, wait a minute. I'm going through all this work. I'm counting calories. I'm trying to look good. And this is like the opposite of what I want. Why? I got a beer belly? I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to bulk up, so okay. I got it. I'm putting on a little extra fat, so whatever. But then something else happened. Like, I ended up I got selected for Sailor of the Quarter, and so I had to go in front of a board, which is like, Employee of the Month, right? I had to go in front of a panel of people on a board and be interviewed to see if I should be the one at the command that is the best employee that month or that quarter, right? And so I go there, but you have to be in your dress whites, and I didn't realize how much weight I'd really put on, right? So the morning of, I put on my dress white pants, and I just stopped breathing for a second, because when my pants got up to my hips, I couldn't even, I struggled to get them past my hips. And then when I finally got them past my hips, I tried to zip them up, and that was a battle. I mean, I was struggling just to zip them up and button them. I was like, oh my, I was in shock. I could not believe this is happening. I got a board in like 3 hours from now. This is not happening right now. And then I had to figure out, okay, I can't go get another pair of pants because these are tailored. They're cut to my length. So what am I going to do? This is horrible. I can't just not show up. My pants were so tight. They look like Speedos. And they're supposed to be loose. These are dress white, like slack pants. They're skin tight around my butt. If I bent over, I was scared their pants were going to rip in the crotch. It was insane. Oh my goodness. I was so nervous. I put those pants on. I went to the board with those pants on because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't have time, right? And so I remember how sitting there in front of the door, and they call my name, and it's time to go into this board. I mean, this was horrible. And I walk in there, they have me do an about face and turn around, and I just know now they're seeing how tight these pants are on me. Oh man. And then I make it through the board. After the board, right, one of the chiefs, I was in E6 at the time, which is like mid-level rank, right? E6 is like mid-level. The chief is higher ranking than me, right? And so they call me, they asked if they could talk to me for a second, and they told me how embarrassing it was for them to look at me with those pants on, and how I should be ashamed of myself for actually wearing those pants. And they counseled me for 5 minutes on how embarrassing those pants were and everything. And I was like, you know what? This is horrible. Like, what in the world is going on? It was unexpected, right? And I was thinking, man, this is horrible. So at this point, I decided I'm going to cut down. So I cut down all the body fat. I'm going to cut back down. Forget this. And so cutting down wasn't easy, right? Because you have to deal with counting calories, and I went from eating a surplus in calories down to having to go on a calorie deficit. So now I'm dealing with like hunger pains, and my stomach's hurting, and I want more food. And then finally I cut back down to my goal body weight, which was supposedly I was supposed to have more muscle, but the problem was I ended up being at 160 pounds. I was right back where I started, and I didn't gain any muscle at all. And so basically I went through 6 months gaining 35 pounds of fat and having to lose it again, and it was a nightmare, right? And so what ended up happening is, at this point, I wasn't going to give up, right? I still wanted to keep trying to achieve this goal of getting this figure, right? Being able to be proud of the way I look, and you know, maybe go to the gym and actually, and you know, have people notice you and, you know, look good and stuff like that, right? And I mean, it's okay to be in, I was happy, you know, I wasn't really overweight, but I was, you know, I was like average, and being average is just as bad as not, you know, as being overweight, I think, just because you don't get noticed. No one cares. You're a dime a dozen. You look like anybody else. I wanted that, you know, that feeling when you walk into the gym and people like just notice you. They're like, wow, look at that guy. That guy knows what he's doing. I gotta watch him. And, you know, just to feel good, you get this sense of confidence about yourself. You feel good. And I still wanted that. And I wasn't willing to give up yet. You know, I'm not going to give up. So I'm going to keep figuring this out. And it was amazing. Around this time is when my buddy Chuck, that I transferred at this point to a new command, and my buddy Chuck this guy was 250 pounds. He had pictures. He was 250 pounds. He went from 250 pounds down to 190 pounds. And he was muscular. And I was like, what in the world? And he recommended Chris Gethin to follow him and check out some of his routines. And so I did. I went to Chris Gethin. I signed up for his 8-week trainer. I went through the entire 8-week trainer, and it was on bodybuilding and nutrition, and then he launched another trainer, and I followed that trainer, and I went through like 6 months with Chris Gethin every day. And the biggest thing I realized when I went through Chris Gethin's, all of his training, was on his second trainer. What had happened was, he went to the doctor. He went to the doctor in the beginning of the trainer and had the doctor measure his body fat and muscle mass. And when he finished the 8-week trainer, he did it again. And this is some amazing stuff, right? So he actually gained 7 pounds of muscle and lost like 18 pounds of body fat in 2 months. And so wait a minute. I was thinking, wait a minute. So he gained muscle and lost fat at the same time? Everything I'd learned up to this point was I had to either bulk or cut. I couldn't do both at the same time. But he has proof. I just seen him do it over 8 weeks. He went to the doctor. The doctor just showed me that it worked. Holy mackerel. My mind was blown. I was like, I don't have to bulk. I don't have to get fat anymore. So I was so excited. Yes. And so I was like, I am never putting on body fat again. And so I did it. And I started following this routine, right? And I started putting on muscle. And I kept my body fat off and was putting on muscle, right? But something else magical happened. Something else amazing happened around the same time. I had been counting calories for over a year now. Every day. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about a nightmare? Try counting calories. Just do it for a week. And you will want to just say, forget it. I'll just be fat the rest of my life if I got to count calories like this. Counting calories is horrible. It's the worst thing ever. It takes so much time. And I've been doing it for over a year. But something happened. Something happened at this point. I went to count my calories one day and I didn't need to anymore. it was weird. Like, I already knew. I had done it so much that I already knew how many calories I needed to eat. I already knew everything I needed to know. And so I was like, I was actually wasting time counting calories because I already knew it in my head. So like, wait a minute, something's happening here. Something weird's happening. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna go with it. So I stopped counting calories. I'm like, I'm done counting calories. I stopped counting calories, and I went from 8% body fat down to 5% body fat, not counting calories. And I put on more muscle mass at the same time. So everything people had taught me up to that point, I didn't need to do. I had figured it out. And what I call this, there was no term for it, so I just made up the internalization method. And I figured out a way to internalize the information. And it took me a long time, but I figured out a way that you can actually speed up that process, right? You don't have to take 2 years. If I would have only known what I know, if I knew what I knew now 2 years ago, when I stopped counting calories, or actually 3 or 4 years ago now, when I first started counting calories, I wouldn't have needed to do it. I could have taught myself to internalize the information correctly and not waste so much time counting the calories, right? So what ended up happening at the end of everything was I achieved my results, right? And I was able to get down to 5% body fat, and I got up to 170 pounds, right? 10 pounds of extra muscle. And I look good, man. Right when I go in the gym now, it's cool. Like, people you can just see it when you walk in, and people just are looking over at you. You know, they don't come in and just stare at you directly, but you know, you see everyone like peeking over at the side of their eyes as you walk by and checking you out. And then you look at them and they look back around like this and looking around. They didn't see you, right? And then people started coming up to me, right? They're like coming up and they're saying, "Hey, man, how did you get your shoulders like that?" You know, and people started asking me for advice. And a big part of it is because I was able to get the body fat off and learn how to get body fat off. It's crucial, right? And along the way, at the time, I was just doing it for bodybuilding, and I wanted to look good and stuff like that. And I ended up helping so many people in the Navy. I was a personal trainer, and which is called CFL, or Command Fitness Leader in the Navy, right? And I ended up helping so many people, like at least 30 people that ended up failing the PRT, and they needed to, because they failed because they're overweight. And I had to help them to get back, you know, within standards. And I've been able to do that for these people. And then not only that, I ended up getting certified as a ship shape facilitator for the Navy, which is specifically deals with just weight loss, not the fitness side. And I was able to help, in one class, I was able to help 6 people lose over 60 pounds of body fat in 2 months, combined together. And so I guess the cool thing is, I figured out a way. I decided that I wanted to help people to lose weight, because if you look at a lot of the problems out there that people have is they just, it's too complicated. It's too complicated. I went through it. I know how complicated it is. And every time I turn on or I go to a weight loss group, or I'm at my office, people are always talking about how they're limiting what they're eating. Oh, you got to cut this food out, or you got to cut this food out, or you got to cut this food out. And it's all crap. It is. It's all crap. You can eat whatever you want. You don't have to limit anything. There's so many misconceptions out there when it comes to weight loss. I eat anything I want to eat. I don't say, oh, I can't eat bread. I hear it the other day. I was in my office and and it's almost rude, right? Hey, I made this nice, I made these cool things, this little cake or whatever it is. Here, you want to try it? And her response was, "Oh, you know I can't eat that. I can't eat bread. It's not good for you." And it's almost offensive to me when I see that, because this person's offering you something they made, and you're coming back with like, "Oh, I can't eat that." Like you're turning your nose up to them. And I think that's so rude. I can't stand seeing that crap. And I want to stop all these misconceptions. It's all stupid. And how long can someone really stay on a plan when they're always talking about what they can and cannot eat? Anyway, so you can eat whatever you want. The key is internalization. That is the key to achieving your goals in weight loss, is internalization. And that's all I wanted to say. So you can check out my sign up for my next class coming up on internalization, where I teach you how to internalize the information. What took me over 4 years to learn, you can do in a couple months. So, all right, thanks for showing up. And I'm gonna be doing some more of these things where I'm gonna be going live a lot more. I'm gonna be talking about a lot of different stories related to nutrition, and we're gonna change the industry. It's gonna be cool. So, all right, take care. And if you thought this was cool, share it, like it, and talk to you later. Bye.